Hey, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines, a late night chat. I was interested to see on YouTube a little snippet of news from Michigan, one of the states in America. Now, say what you like about the Americans, they have brought in some, let me see, life-changing change. Well, yeah, really big changes in life in various aspects, in pollution, even though it can be argued that they're still very bad in some aspects of this, but they have helped in making cars cleaner. They've helped in car design. Some of the design studios are responsible for some of the finest of the automobiles that have been designed and sold. I mean, talking about really high-end stuff, you know. Well, now I see from Michigan, I see that they have made cyberbullying a crime. Now, this interests me a lot because I've had some experience of it lately, and here's my thought. Kind of maybe one state making cyberbullying a crime. Now, this could have far-reaching ramifications. This may be the writing on the wall for the future as to how cyber crime is viewed. Now, we also have the fact that in the Philippines, slander and libel are taken very seriously, but they don't right now have the infrastructure, the police, they just don't have what's needed to be able to enforce this. So that's what's happening there. Now, let's just have a look at what could happen if this spreads. Now, we've also had this thing of the comments thing and stopping comments because it's affecting children. That's what has been said. But anyway, and so whatever that means, YouTube are actually stepping up to some degree, and they're trying to straighten something out. Okay, so they're trying to evidently, depending on where you like to browse, evidently there are sites that promote bad images of children, or images of children which generate bad comments, and this is being viewed in the way that it should be. It's being viewed as a bad thing, and we need to get rid of it. So I'm just looking at what it would mean if cyberbullying, being a crime, if that spread across the internet. Slander, as it is right now in the Philippines, is a serious thing, and as far as I know, what could be regarded as the first indication of the police being involved in a crime, that of slander, was of an actress fairly recently, in the last few months, broke a contract, and then as a result of breaking a contract with her employer and leaving and going back to Manila, is my understanding, she then made some slanderous comments about the employer. He evidently reported that to the police, and the police arrested the lady. So you can see that there's a big difference here between someone taking out a case against someone and paying for it privately, and the police backing up an area of the law and law breaking. So that was very interesting to me, and now we have Michigan stepping up and saying that cyberbullying is a crime. Why is it a crime? Well, when it's perpetrated by kids, like teenagers, and without thinking they are hounding people other teenagers in most cases, to an extent that the kid that is being hounded just cannot see a way out. And there have been suicides that kids have killed themselves because they can't face what is happening to them with the cyberbullying. One particular case that I read where the girl, as a bet when she had had a couple of drinks apparently, and she showed her bust at a private party. Somebody took a picture without her knowing, and then they started to circulate it, and they circulated that to the point where the girl either was driven to suicide or actually had contemplated it and threatened it, which is pretty serious. So making that a crime is a really good thing, and of course it never stops there. So what's going to happen is that a victim is a victim. Somebody who is suffering as a result of a crime being committed is going to have recourse to the law. And if this spreads to the Philippines, I think that this will be a good thing. Right now, what does a cyberbully do? Cyberbully will make life hard for someone as much as they possibly can. Now, it's a little bit like a video game. If you think of it like this, the person who is known has shown his face, has told his name, and is out in the open, in the light, as they say, excuse me, has everything to lose. If the game starts to go wrong, he is the one who pays penalties. Now, if you're playing a video game and you are not doing too good, you pay penalties. Okay, so if you're found, to take the analogy that little bit further, if you are playing the game of cyberbullying, you will be no face, no name, and at the moment no penalty. But maybe the writing is on the wall here, because when something is made a crime, if it is declared a crime, then anybody who is associated with that will be regarded as an accessory. What's an accessory? An accessory is one helping in an unlawful act. One who, though absent, listen to the words, one who though absent, helps another to break the law. So, it's not going to be possible to simply put a channel up and allow a platform for the cyberbullies without being held accountable. Now, I'm not talking about now. I'm just offering this as a possible indication of the writing on the wall. So, as this becomes more and more serious, and people start to report it, not to YouTube. YouTube has a complicated way of reporting something, and what they do is they say if it is deemed abusive, the report itself, then the person who is making the report can be gotten rid of, and they'll be deleted from YouTube. Now, this is especially important if you have a face, if you have a name, and if you are operating in an open, honest way. Well, what about the cyberbullies? Well, they've got no face and they've got no name. But that's right now. They will become known by their name, their username, and they are being known. And as President Trump indicated very recently, he pointed a finger and he said about the people that were cyberbullying him, In other words, saying things which he at least maintains is untrue and abusive. He said, "We know who you are, we know where you are." So, when payback time comes, everything that has been put on YouTube, everything that has been put on these nameless, faceless sites, thinking that they are not accountable, will be having a surprise. And this will mean that there are accessories, the people who provide a platform for hate, for groundless, unfounded allegations and accusations, and name-calling in a way that slanders an innocent person. Now, it will be very easy, won't it? If somebody stands up and says, "This guy is this," or "This guy is that," and he can prove it, then that will be one thing. He'll be talked to by the police like you would expect. And of course, if his allegations are firmly founded in fact, which can be shown to be true, then boy, the guy that he is accusing will be in trouble. What happens if the faceless guy is given a face and the nameless are given names, and then they're found? They may not be found right now, but they know their name. If you're there as Joe Clever, well, everything that you say as Joe Clever is being recorded, is being set by. Believe me, when we were falsely accused and we were investigated by the NBI, when we went there, it was a file this thick. They had investigated us well. So, it won't be one of those things where people get off lightly, because, like the actress who thought that she could just skate off, ignore her obligations and her contract and go to Manila and then start bad-mouthing this man who had given her work and had her sign a contract, she found out, not quite sure what ever happened on the case because nothing was ever else was reported, but she was arrested. Now, maybe it would have all been smoothed over, maybe she went back and was a good girl and obeyed her contract, who knows, I'm simply guessing, it's just hearsay. But for the people who are there and think that they will never be accountable, that they will never be held accountable for what they are saying, I think that the writing is on the wall for this being quite untrue. So, we'll look forward to payback time. That's my thought on it. Thanks for looking in. This is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Of course, this is all my imagination, isn't it? This is all my opinion. That's true. But, as a prediction, based on the fact that slander is being considered, treated much more as a crime, and Michigan breaking ground on something that has been long outstanding, it does kind of indicate that there's a good possibility that this will suddenly blossom. Remember, at one time you were allowed, as an aside, at one time you were allowed to have a few drinks, and as long as you could walk the line and you were fairly coherent, even if you were smelling of booze, if you were stopped by the police and you were deemed capable, then there was no charge. That's why I say that as far as I know, the Americans brought in zero tolerance. You want a beer? Don't drive. That's how it is now. I remember this very clearly because as a single parent, if anything happened, as it did once, my kid fell out of a tree and had a broken arm. And I was the one that had to drive him to hospital. Now, if I was into kicking back at the house, you know, taking some time off, having a couple of beers and watching TV, I wouldn't have been able to honour my responsibility to my kid as his father. So I didn't drink. I enforced my own zero tolerance rule, and I didn't drink. I remember going to a friend's and one beer, and I would realise I couldn't drive. So that's why people actually bought their own breathalyzers, so that they could find out just what their tolerance was. Going to be an interesting time, I think. Very interesting. Thanks for looking in. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Bye for now.